I spent some of my formative years with my aunt, who was a dressmaker. She was one of the top ones in the country, and she had no kids. So I literally grew up at the side of a machine, threading needles, learning to base, and little things like that. So it was always a love that turned into a passion. I actually started in the business when one of my brothers, who lived in London for many years, about 40 years or so, he decided to return to Trinidad, and he was married to a British woman, and she was one of the merchandisers for Selfridges at the time. She was a manager. She was a buyer for the Selfridges. And so she was coming back home and she needed something to do. So of course I had a passion for fashion and she had a background in fashion. So we decided to do something together. Now at the time I was working at the university in education. And after the first year, my brother and his wife, they both decided that this was not really where they wanted to relocate to. So they returned, and of course I had this business on my hand. So I went to my boss and I asked him if I could get some leave to sort this thing out, And he said they couldn't give me leave, but I was such a good worker that if it didn't work out, I can always come back. One thing I never do is to turn back. I never go back. So I decided to resign my job and go full speed ahead into this fashion world. And I have not turned back to today. I remember as a child, I don't know where I got it from, but I always knew I was going to be successful. I remember at 5 years old that realization and that thought process came to me. So I never had a fear of failing because I never thought that I could fail, no matter what. I've stumbled many times, but I've gotten back up. And what sustains me is strong women. I've had a lot of strong women in my life. And as I said, a lot of mentors and a lot of support. And really, as a young person starting in business, what you really need is mental and emotional support. Talent alone does not cut it. You need to understand failure. You need to understand that failure is not the end of the world. You need to understand there's a price for success. And you need to understand how to have a vision. I'm always inspired by successful women, especially successful single women who made it on their own. I've always been inspired by people who succeeded against all odds. I used to be a big reader. Now I'm a bigger listener because now you don't really have to read. Now everything is audio, so you can listen. So success stories are things that I love to do, And of course, I am not fearful of my aloneness. I really appreciate my alone time. So perspective is very, very important to me. Spending time alone and nurturing yourself, going within and talking to yourself. I've learned the importance and the preciousness of those things. Success to me is the realization of knowing when you are on your given path and understanding that this is something you have to do alone. Not being afraid to reach for the stars on your own, taking a chance, not being afraid of failing or falling, because every failure has a lesson of success in it if you only look at it from a broader perspective.
A lot of times we look at success as something like an end goal.
Mm.
But your first response was, it's, that you're on the right path. So it's a journey still for you.
Yes, success is a journey.
It's a journey
Yeah.
still for you.
And it's a journey with several components. Well, the thing is learning to depend on yourself and learning how to go within for the answers. I mean, there's sometimes when I first started, I would allow people to invade my space and my time and to invade my capabilities. So, like, I wanted for tomorrow, and I wouldn't say scared or afraid, but I didn't know the power of no. I would always say yes, 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 it's possible. And then you can get burnout doing that. And then you realize that that is the opposite of self-love. Trying to please everybody is the opposite of self-love. When you learn to love yourself, you learn to put yourself first. You learn to understand, what do you want as a person? What does your time mean to you? How valuable is being alone to you? The moment I started realizing those things, and I think it's because of my spirituality, and I meditate a lot. I love walking, I love going into the forest. And the moment you tap into that and you understand that, you understand the power that's within and how to tap into it. I've achieved a lot, and growth is, I will always pursue growth.
Right.
So the sky is the limit, But I have dressed almost every notable Caribbean leader, international ones. One of my highlights was giving Nelson Mandela 2 shirts. And I have pictures of him holding my shirts. That meant a lot to me. One of my highlights was my school principal. After I started my business, took it upon himself to nurture me further and introduced me to the then president, Max Richards, who then decided that he's going to bring his wife. And the amount of knowledge that I gathered from her, from a protocol standpoint and dressing diplomats, it's invaluable. I mean, that was a game changer for me. So Dr. Richards is someone that I would always hold dear. And there are lots of people who steered me, on the right path and helped to mold my career. Lenore Dorset was another one. She sort of opened the door for me to do, how should I say, executive wardrobe protocol. My brother, who is a lawyer, he's 1 or 2 years above me. He was at the London High Commission for 10 years, and he was able, well, he didn't do it consciously, but through his connections, a lot of doors were opened for me in Europe with Caribbean or diaspora people in the diplomatic service. So I have been fortunate. Well, I would always say, never employ someone to work for you unless you understand what you're asking them to do. So learn about it. So if you are employing someone to do marketing for you, try to have a comprehension of what it is. You're employing someone to sell for you or stitch for you or press for you. Try to have an understanding of what you're asking someone to do so that you learn to appreciate their learning curve. You learn to appreciate their growth. You learn to nurture and to mentor. And you also learn when you're doing gym. I think there's so much untapped potential, because I think that we are still living small in a small world, not fully understanding that the world is spaceless. It's so big, it's so huge. I mean, there's so many opportunities here that we haven't tapped in as yet. People save all year to come here for 2 days. Every international news broadcast station, whatever, want to come just to witness Carnival. All of that is free. In some cases, they have to pay to come to do it. And I don't think that we are capitalizing on it enough. One. Number two, I think that we are missing the opportunity to earn more revenue than we are earning, because we are focusing more on design than on production. And really, production is where the money is. It's not in design. Because look, you can be a top designer by just going on the internet and copying work, and putting your name to it and branding it well and marketing the thing properly. So I think that we have like 1,000 designers, but we have like 2 proper production houses. You see, and I think that is so sad. That is my biggest disappointment in my career. That we don't put emphasis on production, on teaching people to produce. Most people who come to me are poorly trained. They come with huge portfolios, they come with certificates, but they can't do anything. So they have no use. And what is the sense going to school for 5, 6, 7 years? And when you come out, you can't produce nothing. Production is the name of the game. That is how we will give more jobs. That is how we will raise more revenue. That is how we will earn more taxes. That is how the government will gain more income. And I think that's a missing link.
Have you always trusted your intuition?
Yes, I trust my gut.
Always.
Always. And anytime I don't trust my gut, that is when I run into problems. Yeah. Well, what I would like to leave behind is the fact that I was competitive on an international scale. And I did it here, and that I am a Trinidad and Tobagonian, and that it is possible. Whether the business continues or not, but when I started, I didn't see anyone like me. At my age, I started at 21. All the successful people were much, much older. Now, people are successful at 16, 15, 12. So the landscape is completely different. So what I want people to understand is it is possible. Anything is possible.